Beyond the 80.
Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the Beyond the 80 podcast. I'm your host, Dan Talentire, and as always, I'm joined by some of the biggest and brightest names right around this great game of rugby league to talk all the latest news and opinions, but most importantly, have a bit of fun along the way. Very excited to welcome today, special guest, a man that needs no introduction. Welcome to the show, Corey Thompson.
Thanks for having me.
Corey, obviously isolation is officially over to some extent. You're back in training now. I guess what was that first day like when you came back and saw the boys?
Yeah, it was good. I was sort of looking forward to it. You know, you sit at home and you sort of forget just how good it is to be around the boys and just the constant laughing and training together and going through the hard times and just enjoying footy together.
Who was the most excited to be back, mate? Was there someone in particular that was bouncing off the walls a little bit, or?
Probably Grubby. Grubby probably lives for training. He loves footy, and you could just see his smile when all the boys came back, and it's good. It's like we didn't have any time off, and we all just got back into it.
There was a little rumour doing the rounds, Corey, that you weren't actually minding isolation. Can you talk us through that, mate? Are you a bit of a homebody?
Yeah, probably. I had family, call obviously to check up and ask how you were feeling. And to be honest, I pretty much do the same thing when the world was normal. Like the only thing that got taken away was footy. That was pretty much it. So, in isolation, I'd probably, sleep in, jump on the PlayStation, and then before you know it, it was dinner time. So
it's not a bad day.
Isolation didn't hit me too hard.
You're, I guess, obviously it's been a bit of a weird adjustment back at the moment, mate. Can you just talk us through, I guess, we've heard a bit about these protocols and that sort of stuff. Like for you guys, what does that look like each day in terms of what you've got to do to be able to come back to training?
Yeah, it's sort of weird. We rock up at training and the facility's all fenced off, and when we get there, we have to, keep the distance apart, and we get our temperature checks, and every morning we have to do a survey about our whereabouts in the last 24 hours. If we went to, even if we went to Woolies or had to go to the shops, we have to tell the NRL, and that's just in case someone in the general public went there at the same time and maybe they were sick or something like that. And then we get our temperatures checked and the surveys done before we rock up into training. And the shoes we wear to training, we have to leave outside, and we put, a so-called clean pair that stays inside the fence, and we wear that around training. So just to keep the outside shoes outside, and then when we get to the training field, it's the same thing. We have to, our boots are kept inside the training field, so they're not taken outside, and we put them on, and then when we leave the field, we put our outside shoes back on, and they stay outside again. So. Yeah, right. It's a lot to do just to train, but obviously there's strict protocols for a reason that we all got to follow, and we're trying our best to do that at the club.
Yeah, right. And I guess then on the field as well, there's what you can and can't do is pretty different. Obviously, we saw the NRL come out and say that that contact isn't allowed back yet. I guess you guys have been training in smaller groups. How's that affected things?
Yeah, so at the moment we're in obviously 3 groups. We got the left edge, middles, and right group.
Okay.
Then some of the young boys just split off into their positions, and then at the moment there's no contact or wrestle. So every player has OzTag flags on.
Yeah, right.
Just so we're keeping the hand contact away from each other. So we obviously, when you pull the flag off, that's a tackle, and obviously it's not the best to practice with, but at the moment, that's what we've been given, and hopefully they lift the contact rule off soon.
Anyone sneaky good at OzTag? Like because it is a bit of a different skill. Is there anyone that's actually not too bad at the old OzTag tags? Or
yeah, even surprisingly, Moses is good at it. Mo's told us that he's played a bit of his fair share of OzTag, and it's all in the hips apparently. When you're running, just swivel the hips a bit to get the flags moving, and yeah, he surprisingly was pretty good at it.
Okay, get the hips going. There's what your first bit of advice from Corey Thompson on today's show. Well, we've got a bit of a fun show lined up. What we're going to do with the magic of technology, we're going to, after the break, we're going to jump in with our very first special guest, journalist extraordinaire, Emma Lawrence. So Corey's going to have a little bit of a break, and then we're going to come back to Corey at the end in part 3 for a game of You're the Coach. So, but Corey, we'll come back for part 2 with Emma right after this.
That's a win.
This NRL season, take it to the Neds level.
All right, welcome back to part 2 of the Beyond the 80 podcast, and I'm joined by a very special guest. We've got there's a reason why this one's so special, and it's because one of our players is related to this guest. Now, it's not that this guest is related to one of the players. No. Chris Lawrence is Emma Lawrence's brother. Emma Lawrence is the main one. That's what we wanted to emphasise today. Emma Lawrence, welcome to the Beyond the 80 podcast.
Oh, Dan, you are my new best friend for highlighting that. I tell you what, it's usually the other way around when anyone refers to the two of us. But no, I very much appreciate that. So off to a good start.
You're, of course, for those that don't know, you're obviously a big part of the Channel 10 coverage on sport. I guess we've heard you plenty of different places, though, on Triple M and a number of different things. What's currently on the resume for Emma Lawrence in terms of work at the moment?
You know what? A lot of my friends have said to me, what on earth are you doing? Because there is no footy. And I say, you know what? I would say I'm probably more busy, at least during the week. I know there's no games on the weekend, but during the week, there has been so much to cover, honestly, between all of the Project Apollo work, what's happening, when are they getting back to training, exactly what they can and can't do. Then we had Todd Greenberg leaving and then a few players doing the wrong thing as well. So it's honestly been a really big few weeks. So one of the challenges, I guess, has been because players aren't at training and there are no set media opportunities, having to rely on coaches, CEOs, the like to answer your calls and agree to be interviewed. So it's been challenging in that sense, but certainly a lot of content still to cover.
Well, we're very thankful that you're across the news because that's what we need to do with you today. And what I thought we'd do is, I just put a little bit of a spin on it. Obviously, while we've been in isolation, you might have been busy, but the rest of us have had a little bit more time. And I think what everyone's been doing in isolation is watching a lot of Netflix. And I don't know how much Netflix you've watched, but when you're on Netflix and you've been watching a show for a while, it'll pop up with, are you still watching such and such a show? And that's kind of like their hint as to say, look, you've watched too much TV, you need to get off. But what I thought it'd be, so these news, what we've got is a few little news stories. And I just want us to know, is this a story that you're still watching, or is this a story that, you finished watching? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it certainly makes sense.
That's about as good as a segue is going to get.
And for the Netflix record, I've just started watching The Last Dance. I've only watched episode 1, so finally caught up with everyone.
Okay, nice. Well, you've got some good episodes to come.
All right, fire away.
All right, first story. Are we still watching the anti-vaccination story? We've heard a lot about that in the last couple of days. I guess, is that a story we're still watching? What's kind of happening there?
Well, it seems to pretty much be resolved. Essentially, players that didn't want to get the flu vaccination, ScoMo came out and said, no jab, no play. And then players, essentially, there was a chance that they weren't going to be able to play, but the commission decided, the ARL commission decided, no, it's fine. They have to sign a waiver. So they made a slight amendment to the waiver. Originally, it said you are signing to say that you're at greater risk of contracting the flu if you don't get the jab. But now it says you have been advised by doctors you are at greater risk. So essentially, they don't agree that they're at greater risk, but they're signing to say that's the advice they've been given. So now players essentially have to sign that. And most of them now that has been amended, they know they can play and they don't have to have the shot. Most that haven't had it, including the likes of Bryce Cartwright, Josh Papali, a few have been quite outspoken. As long as they sign that waiver, they're free to play. So it looks like now what we thought would be a drama, it seems to be resolved.
Okay, so we've moved on from that one. Okay, I like that. What about the story of, and this is a topical one, the players banned from their Mother's Day visits? Are we still watching this one?
No, unfortunately, I thought, this is good from the NRL, allowing Mother's Day visits. But again, the ARL Commission, when they met, they have said, no, sorry, boys, you do not get an exemption to be able to visit your mothers on Mother's Day. So, I mean, it would be nice, but I do agree with that decision just because if you can't just make an exemption for one day, because if we're trying to be strict, keep them away from any possible risks of contracting COVID, then we have to push ahead only a couple of weeks till the season. So sorry to all of the mothers of the players out there, but I'm sure, I know the players, particularly at the West Tigers, they'll be doing everything possible to send videos, FaceTime chats, and post some gifts out as well. So that decision has been made, and yeah, no visits on Mother's Day.
And hypothetically, it allows, let's say, someone who might be related to a NRL player to then move in as the favourite child, I imagine.
Yes, well, I think for me, Chris has always been the favourite with my dad, but I think now I've recently moved back home, so I think I'm definitely the favourite with Mum. But I think she's getting sick of cooking me meals, so I might have to get onto that.
Okay. All right. What are we still watching? What are we no longer watching? I think a story, and I can probably jump in on this one. I think one that we're definitely still watching and loving watching is how much the Warriors have embraced Tamworth and vice versa. How have they kind of been going up there, and are they kind of settled in pretty well to that situation up there?
They certainly have. And what I loved was the fact that Tamworth was so on board with it. So they're staying up there at the Mercure Hotel. They've got Scully Park just across the road. So a new gym set up. They've got basketball, sort of makeshift basketball court. They've got a really cool setup. And essentially I've been speaking to a couple of them each day through Zoom conversations. They get up in groups of maximum of 10. They go out, do their training, and the next group gets up and they just sort of swap in like a circuit situation. So they seem to be settling in really well. It's obviously not ideal for them. They've made huge sacrifices being away from their families, but the community have really embraced it. And Rod Lang, the CEO of West's up there, he's loving having them up there. And the fact that he's been able to put some staff back on too to be able to accommodate them. So that's a massive win for the area in that sense.
Absolutely. And I think we mentioned on another podcast, but for that area, which only a couple of months ago was doing it really tough with the drought, is such a boost to have those guys around. And I know they're in isolation, but just to add that bit of, I guess, energy and atmosphere back into Tamworth, it's a huge win for them up there. Absolutely. Are we still watching this story, or are we finished watching this story about the contact and the players being able to return to contact? I imagine we're probably still waiting on that one a little bit more.
Yeah, still waiting on official confirmation, but the hope is that from next week they will be able to go back into regular training. So the wrestling, the contact, and not being restricted to groups of 10. But there is a meeting today with the Project Apollo team. So hopefully we have, with more consultation with the governments, we make steps towards doing that, but not officially signed off on in that sense. But I guess now, I mean, everyone has a different opinion on how many weeks you need in terms of contact to be able to get back into playing. But no less than 2 weeks seems to be the general consensus. I know Trent Robinson said, you could get away with 2 weeks contact. But, I mean, the less time you have, obviously, the greater risk of injury. So hopefully by next week we've got, normal contact in wrestling.
Yeah, nice. All right. And a last one, I'm not sure if you saw this story. Like Netflix, there's a few little shows on there that you don't know are on there. This might have been one that snuck under the radar, but I'd be surprised. I mean, you're all over things. This chance of a little end of test series at the end of the year between New Zealand and Tonga. I guess obviously the aim is to put Origin at the end of the year, and international footy is obviously kind of in a bit of a tricky spot at the moment with travel and all those sorts of things. But if we can get it off the ground, I guess that'd certainly be something we'd be watching, I imagine.
Yes, I absolutely love this idea, and actually spoke last week to the Kiwis captain, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, or at least before the last test when he got injured. I know Benji stepped in for their last test, but gee, he was just saying that obviously it's not ideal and you cannot help what's happened, but he said it has the potential to, kill off this momentum of the international game if we don't have internationals. And for those that don't have Origin to aspire to, this is the pinnacle. So he had suggested last week, I know it was being spoken about at NRL level anyway, but he said, I think we need something, especially for Tonga. We've seen how much progress they've made with the likes of Fafina and Taumalolo pledging their allegiance. So I think it's really important for the international game. So if we can get that up and running, it would be great. And Dallin actually did say, he said, the Kiwis have been great to me, and obviously I've got plenty of years with the Kiwis, but gee, one day I'd love to do the same and pull on that jersey for Tonga.
Yeah, right. Well, obviously we saw those scenes, I guess, at Mount Smart Stadium. It's been a couple of years now that they've played the Kiwis there, and they've just been incredible. The flags and the colour and the actual games themselves have been brilliant. So I have certainly no doubt that would be something we'd be watching Emma Lawrence, I have absolutely no doubt that you're going to smash it out of the park today. You are all over this news. You are watching plenty of news. You might not be watching enough Netflix, but that's because you're busy working. Thank you very much for your time on the Beyond the 80 podcast today. And we'll make sure to touch base with you soon. Just so, just in case Chris needs a bit of a profile, he can kind of piggyback off yours once again. So just to make sure that that's the right order again, that was Emma Lawrence Chris Lawrence being Emma Lawrence's brother. We just need to get that in one more time.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you for having me. Look forward to the footy starting. Look forward to the Tigers winning games, making the finals, and hopefully even a premiership for 2020.
That sounds like a great plan, and that sounds like a great part to end part 2. We'll be back with part 3 with Corey Thompson right after this.
That's a win.
This NRL season, take it to the Neds level.
Welcome to part 3 of the Beyond the 80 podcast, and I'm joined again by Corey Thompson. Corey, you're back. Thanks for holding on there while we got through all the news with Emma. The magic of technology there, mate. It feels like there was no time at all. Corey, I thought we'd wrap up by a game that we've played with a few of the boys, and we're getting a few of these dream teams put together. It's a game we're calling You're the Coach. So what it is, basically, you got to pretend that you're the coach of a team, and you can pick any kind of 6 players that you want. Now, I'll give you some positions, and you can kind of pick a player that works in that position, all right? So it's kind of like you just need to play one game. It's just a grand final, and you're the coach. So, mate, would you rate yourself as much of a coach, first and foremost, or...
Yeah. I reckon I could be a good coach.
Yeah, right. Okay. Just good temperament and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice, mate. All right. Well, what we'll do is I'll give you some positions, and then we'll roll through these. So I guess the first one, first and foremost, is let's say a 6-a-side. Every 6-a-side team, there's got to be a fullback, right? There's got to be a fullback. So I guess if excluding yourself here, who in the game, if you could take any fullback, who do you want in your dream team?
I might take Tuivasa-Sheck.
Oh, bang! Right off the top. Why Roger? Like, there's obviously you're a fullback. There's plenty of gun fullbacks in the game. Why Roger?
I just like just the effort he brings when he plays. Obviously, he's very skillful, but I think in the effort areas, he's really good.
Yep.
The things you don't, the fans maybe won't see or won't pick up, that's not in the stat sheet. I think he's pretty good at those little 1%er areas.
Yeah, right. Nice. I like that. Great call. Obviously, a great start as a coach. You've got, a Dally M winning fullback and a captain. That's a very smart pick from you there, Corey. Well done, mate.
Thank you.
All right. So we need another outside back. So what we'll do is we'll give you can have any winger or any centre here. If you could kind of take, of all the outside backs, who do you want in your team?
As wingers.
That's a tough
Is it
one.
in my wingers?
You can take a winger or a centre, whoever you want.
I'm taking Addo Carr.
Addo Carr.
Pure speed.
Yeah, right. Yep. How's have you marked up against him directly, or were you at fullback when he was on the wing, or?
I've marked him. I marked him winger when I was a winger.
Yep.
So
how was that?
obviously you're on your toes the whole game. You sort of have to read what he's going to do before it happens, just to give you that little head start.
Yep.
To try and stop him before he gets going.
Is that in the back of your mind when you're playing someone that has just that raw speed, like that you just have to play it a bit differently?
Yeah. So obviously, Munster likes a crossfield kick to him early in the set. So I sort of just try and keep my eye on the fullback or the half, just to try and get an early clue on what he's thinking. Because if you fall asleep or you take your mind off it and they kick it behind you, Josh will just run straight past you. So
yeah, game over.
I try and give myself a little bit of a head start, or try and see what they're planning before it happens, just to give you that little bit of a head start against them.
Yeah, nice. All right, mate. I'm really liking these picks as coach here. I think we're putting together a fair side. All right, now we're into the halves, so I'll give you can have any half or a 5/8. So you just need a playmaker. That's a tough one because there's some pretty good ones in the game. Who's standing out for you in those halves that you'd want to pick if you're a coach? You've got a bit of X factor already, Roger and Josh Addo-Carr. There's two pretty X factor players.
Yeah, I might go Luke Keary.
Luke Keary.
Yeah. Just
What's,
to put a bit of control in the team.
Okay, I like that, mate. Yeah, I like that.
You obviously got your speed boys in Roger and Josh, so might put a little bit of just control in the team. Obviously, Kiri has a good kicking game as well, and can set up the two speedsters I've already got in there, and I think he'll bring a bit of control to the team.
Yeah, nice. Pretty good at backing up as well, Luke. He kind of reads that game really well. So, yeah, no, I like that pick, mate. This is a nice team we're putting together here. All right, let's go to these big boys up the front. All right, now I need a front rower. You can kind of have a front rower or a lock here. There's, they're pretty much interchangeable. Who are you thinking there?
I'm gonna probably go Jason Tamalolo for lock or front row. He could probably play both anyway.
Yep. Can I was hoping you were going to say this because I would just like to say it's one of my favourite rugby league moments. I hope you remember it. We're at Leichhardt and do you remember it? Tamalolo went through and did not even try and step you. He just tried to run over top of you. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I think I slowed him down just long enough for the boys to get there and help out.
What's that like when you have literally one of the best players in the world who's 100 million kilos and moves like he does, not even try and step you, just try and run over the top of you? What's that like?
I sort of seen him coming, and he's a good stepper too. So I sort of thought he was going to try step, and when he didn't, I sort of just threw everything I could up at him, and thankfully I think I held onto his jersey or slowed him down long enough for him to offload it and pass it. But to be honest, I just thought, I'd rather tackle the big fellas than the little steppy fellas because I'd rather have him running at me than Ponga or Sheck or someone like that because they're probably going to step you before you can even move. So at least
make you look a bit silly. Yeah.
Yeah, at least with the big fellas, you can sort of keep up with them.
I like that, mate. All right, so that's a fair front row lock. I do like that. What about a back rower? Now, do you go for a bit of creativity? Do you go for a bit more size? What do you look for in a back rower? I'll let you pick a second row forward here.
Oh, I don't know about back rowers.
I think this is the tough one. We've stumped a few coaches on this. I think this is.
I'm going to throw one of our own. I'm going to put Luke Garner in there.
Ooh, okay, all right. What's why Garns? Other than being a great bloke,
just his whole run, and I don't think people realise how good he is hit at running off Brooksy.
Yep.
He can skip overs, he can hit that short ball, and he's got a good offload in him as well. I scored a couple of tries off him, just following on the inside, and I think he'd be good to play with the boys that's already in the team that I've chosen.
Yeah, nice. All right, well, I like that. So he gives you a few tries, you pick him in the team, and that's how it works. Okay, I like that. So that leaves us with 5. You need one more here. We need a hooker. Who's your hooker?
I'm probably just going to have to put Damien Cook in.
Yeah.
Obviously, with Tamalolo, he's going to get the quick play of the balls, and I think Kiri and Cookie working together on the ruck would be a good combo.
Mate, that is a track team you've put together. There is some speed in that side. Damien Cook, Luke Keary, Adokar, Sheck. Tamalolo can move. We saw Garns score that awesome try.
Garns can move as well. So
that's a fast side. I'm liking it. You obviously had a bit to do with Cookie when he was were you guys at the Bulldogs together?
Yeah, so we carpooled together for 3 years at the Bulldogs. So we both played reserve grade with each other. I think in 2012 or 13, we were both playing reserve grade with each other, and then it was good to play some first grade with him too at the Dogs.
Mm. What's that like? I guess when you have kind of played reserve grade with someone, and then obviously Cookie kind of moved from the Dogs to the Rabbitohs, and obviously you kind of went to England and then came back and kind of, you've obviously both kind of now settled back in the NRL and really kind of established yourself. Cookie's obviously kind of kicks to that origin and representative level, and it must be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it was good too, and Cookie's always been that good player. He just needed that opportunity. At the Bulldogs, we had Michael Ennis there, and he's an all-time great hooker, and I just think Cookie just needed that coach or those trainers just to give him that shot. He just needed that that 2 or 3 games to get confident, get his the rhythm of first grade in, and you can see what happened. He went to the Rabbitohs, and he got a shot to play, and it wasn't just one game here, one game there. He actually got to, get into a rhythm, be confident, and look what happened. He's the Australian hooker at the moment.
Yeah, right. Yeah, mate. He's that's a fair shout there. I do like that one, mate. That's a great call. All right, so that's a fair side we've put together there. I really like that, mate. What we'll have to do is we'll have to get that up. Online and get some voting happening, because I don't know if you could pick a quicker team there. Given the positions, that's pretty quick, mate. I do like that. I think if that's how we go in your first game, I think you might be in for a long and successful coaching career there, mate.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, mate, that pretty much brings us to the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us. What's on for the rest of today, mate? It's obviously we're recording pretty early in the morning. I guess what's on for the rest of today?
So we just finished recovery this morning. So obviously just had stretching, ice baths. Some boys had physio this morning, and then I'm flat out all day today. I think I've got PlayStation booked in and some movie time. So pretty busy day.
Yeah, nice. But we'll leave you to it. Thanks for joining us today on the Beyond the 80 podcast. And thank you to everyone for listening in. Make sure you keep the ratings and reviews coming on iTunes. We're very much appreciated there. And we'll keep climbing up those charts. A big thanks to everyone that continues to send in their feedback. We really love hearing from that. So keep hitting us up at the Beyond the 80 podcast on Twitter, or you could hit the West Tigers social channels as well. Corey Thompson, thank you for your time today, mate. And we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good day.